As long as a beautiful woman came in for treatment, the male doctor would deliberately increase the dose of anesthesia, then take advantage of her unconscious state to do terrible things. Even if the woman woke up and wanted to check the surveillance, they weren't afraid at all, because the footage had already been tampered with. So every patient who got hurt thought it was just a hallucination, which made the male doctor even more reckless, and he ended up harming countless women this way. Until one day a woman with a fear of men came to this place and completely exposed the doctor's crimes, making him pay a heavy price for what he had done. Just a few days ago, a man walked into a women's mental clinic with his wife because she had a severe phobia of the opposite sex. He specifically chose this place, where all the doctors and staff were female. But as soon as the woman stepped into the treatment room, she saw her husband and the female doctor hugging intimately. Even though it was their first visit, they acted like they had known each other for a long time. Before she could react, the female doctor suddenly began to hypnotize her. As her mind started to blur, she saw two strange men walk in. They quietly injected her with anesthesia and gave her a creepy smile. What they didn't know was, even though her body was numb, her mind was still faintly conscious. When she woke up, she immediately told her husband she had heard male voices during the session, but the female doctor insisted there had never been any male staff at the clinic, and said it had only been her and her female assistant doing the therapy. Her husband also said he had been outside the room the whole time, and no man had entered. Hearing that, the woman started to believe she was just imagining things, but that night, as soon as she fell asleep, she saw those two men again in her nightmare. The terrifying scene jolted her awake. She started to suspect she had really been assaulted, and quickly told her husband, but he thought it was just a nightmare, and didn't believe a word she said. He kept saying the clinic was all female, and there was no way any man could have been involved. Then comforted her and told her to rest, and stop overthinking, but every time she closed her eyes, she kept hearing the voices of those two men. The next day, she rushed to the clinic to get her treatment records, only to find a man there, and as soon as she heard his voice, it sounded way too familiar. It suddenly hit her. This was the man who had assaulted her. When she confronted him, the female doctor said he was just a visiting expert for academic exchange, not part of the clinic staff, and definitely not there during the previous session. But the woman was absolutely sure. She could never forget that voice. She immediately asked her husband to call the police, but he thought her condition was getting worse, and asked the expert to give her therapy instead. Later, she went into the treatment room again with her husband, thinking his presence would keep her safe. But right after the female doctor started hypnotizing her with a pocket watch, the female assistant asked the husband to step out for privacy reasons. Just as her consciousness began to fade again, she vaguely saw two male figures appear in front of her. This time, she finally saw clearly. One of them was that so-called expert. Then she blacked out. When she woke up, she slapped her husband hard across the face,